Well, it is day 4 of World Swiss Stage with coverage brought to you by Prize Picks. I'm joined right now by Drakos. We are in the foyer of the LEC studio. Is that the official name?
Foyer? No, but it should be.
Okay.
I don't know what the official name is.
Okay.
Fan zone, fan area,
Fan zone
concessions,
sounds
merch. I think we're technically next to merch right now. It does say merch right behind us.
Yeah,
so
but like this is where there's like a bunch of stuff in front of. There's like a snack bar over there.
Entryway. No, I like foyer. We're gonna call it the foyer.
Okay, we're at the foyer of the LEC studio, and we're gonna make this timeless because I don't know when I'm gonna release it. So, what has it been like having Worlds in your backyard?
I think it's. So I'm always like skeptical when we're not going to travel because obviously personally I really love traveling, but I think they've done a really good job of kind of bringing the World's brand here. And I will say that like the blue, to me, it sounds like a small thing, but I live in a world of teal and orange on the OAC, so having the blue in feels really nice. And I feel like that as much as I wish the other benefit could have been all the EU teams were going to play way better, it hasn't been. But I think for us to have this kind of setup has also made for a smoother show. Like there was 1 or 2 kind of hiccups on the first few days, but other than that, it's been really, really smooth, which isn't always the case when we have to travel to like a new venue, et cetera.
Right. Is it weird waking up in your own bed and then coming here and casting a World's game?
100%. Because normally when you travel, all of the rest of your life goes on pause. Like you still pay rent, but you don't think about anything else. But like I go home and I have chores to do. Like I have to clean my living space. There's no housekeeper. I have to feed I have to go to the store and buy groceries, which is a small thing, but over the entire tournament, it adds up pretty quick.
Yes. Yeah. No, I get that actually a lot because I've felt that multiple times whenever there's been some major thing, but it's been in LA where I'm just like, okay, now I just go home and I guess do what I do on any night.
Do a normal life, which is like, it has its benefits too, right? I sleep in my own bed.
It's less exhausting and stuff.
I have routines, but you don't get to kind of like give your entire being to focusing on an event, which is nice to do sometimes.
What have you made of this World so far?
It's interesting. I was kind of hoping the meta would be more different than it is now. I think there is some cool stuff floating around. Yone is obviously like beyond broken. I was kind of sad that like of all of the champions to retain relevance, that Smolder was the other one to show. Smolder's the other one to show up. But there is a lot of people trying new stuff, and I'm kind of hoping it's a similar situation to 2023 or one of the other years where like by the time we make it to best of 5, there is a big shift. Otherwise, at this moment in time, the West isn't doing super hot. And they're sad about that right now because I feel like TL could have won either of their first 2 games. And I was really, really believed coming into this event without any NA or EU bias that like TL and G2 were genuinely very good teams. And it hasn't shown in all of the games yet.
I mean, it does seem like they are often on the cusp of greatness, you know?
Which is like the worst place to be. Because if you're bad, we can just forget about you. But if you win 50% of a game and then lose it, like,
I guess that's fair.
You get your hopes up just to crush them in the end.
It's I think a situation where I do feel a little vindicated because I think there was a lot of hype coming up to North America. And I think that these teams are good. And so I feel like that is a way to feel like, okay, the hype was real. Like we're losing these games not because of the fact that we suck, but just because like our opponents are just a little bit better than us, you know?
I do feel like it's close. Like it's very clearly very close. Like I think the burden of playing out perfectly still feels like it's on the side of EU and NA teams, which is really, really tough because I think domestically most of these teams can get away with 1 or 2 mistakes, and against international caliber teams, like if you make a single mistake, the game just ends, which is really frustrating, especially in some of those TL games where they're clearly winning and all it takes is 1 second of gameplay to undo 14 minutes of like, perfection.
All right. Well, we should move on. Okay. So, what is it like not having to worry about Mark being here for an international event?
Oh, you don't understand.
Because like, normally you guys
I'm the #1 Mark fanboy.
No.
Me and Mark are like this at international events. I know that you
No, that's why I do understand this. I thought that you would riff on it and go in the opposite direction because you guys normally do have to spend a bunch of time together.
No, you don't understand. When we're at international events, his girlfriend texts and says, "How's your boyfriend?"
Oh,
like we are tight. So
is it strange not having him here, though?
Yes.
Okay.
Very strange. That said, I do like that his career of shitposting across every role in esports has like landed him in a senior position.
That's true.
Feels like someone had to eventually shitpost their way to success, and I feel like it's a poetic that it's Marksy.
Have you been watching? I hope all these people know, if they're all gathered around us to look at the merch, they can all go look at the merch. There's just like a slew of people here that we're blocking the merch area from.
How dare they come to the foyer where they're allowed to be?
No, I'm saying,
this interview
I'm saying I hope they know they can like investigate all this stuff. You know, like there's hoodies behind us available. All right, so what is it like for you not casting with him, but watching from afar as he influences the LCS?
I really like what he's doing. I think his style of like really proactive communication is super cool because I think that if you're gonna make bold bets and you're gonna try new stuff, it's really important to tell people who have been like loyal to your product for so long and who've been following for so long, like this is what we're doing, but also being upfront, like, hey, like with best of threes, like this might work, this might not work, right? This might be, maybe this is the perfect thing, maybe it's not. And I think that has been like, even from like, if I look at an LEC product perspective, it's cool that LCS was willing to take that risk because it lets us, from an LEC perspective, not necessarily take like, the biggest bold bet and let that be kind of the litmus test for general audience sentiment, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that he's willing to go out on a limb and kind of further enable what I think is a collection of people who are really trying to make cool stuff on the LCS by like encouraging that kind of experimentation.
Yeah. Do you blame him at all for North America's losses so far?
Personally, yeah. Like it's really like in my head when I go to sleep at night, I imagine like him and Azael. Like it's him like messaging people behind, making sure Azael's casting every NA game, and he's like laughing maniacally to himself.
I mean, as the commissioner of the league, you would think that he would be
you would think, right?
responsible for this type of thing. So it's a little disappointing. Okay, I'm realizing now that all these people are grouped up, but I think they're for the coat check.
Probably.
Yes, because there's just a wall of people that have emerged over the course of this, and so.
Welcome to the social anxiety about whether or not we're being rude in a public space interview.
Exactly. Well, especially as an American in another country, I don't want to be that guy. You know?
You have a camera in a public space interviewing someone. You are that guy. You are the American in a foreign country right now.
Yeah.
In the context of it's in an esports arena, you're fine. But like, if we redo this, let's say Paris at the Eiffel Tower, you're that guy for sure.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to be. Anyway. Let's talk about something. This is the moment where everybody who cares about League of Legends can leave the video. You don't need to watch this anymore. Magic the Gathering.
Hell yeah.
So, what are your commanders right now? What are you doing in
what did I just make? I made Rakdos the Muscle, which is like a really toxic.
From OTJ, right?
Yeah. So you sacrifice, anytime you sacrifice anything, you exile equal to converted mana cost. So it's Rakdos and a bunch of recursion creatures, and it just steals other people's stuff. And then like the only real win con it has, other than cycling those recursion creatures to mill someone, is like Ulamog.
Yeah.
I really liked it on paper. I've played it a bunch now, and like all the Steely decks, I've built like 8 different versions of, I'm gonna steal their stuff, and this one's gonna be good. It's not actually that. Yeah, it's kind of like not my favorite, but it was a fun experiment. I still like it. But
it's so funny because from that set, I also built a Steely deck, which was the Ariat, the Beguiler one, where you put the auras.
And then you take their stuff?
You take their stuff. I did that because I don't usually like mean decks, but I have a lot of friends who like mean decks, and so I was like, fine, I'll make a mean deck to see how it goes.
I like that better, like, because then you're stealing kind of creatures, and you can destroy the aura. It feels more interactive. This one is just, I'm like flipping the coin on what you get off the top. You're usually stealing people's lands, and that makes them really mad.
Yeah.
But it is a really good commander. It protects itself. If you have any other creature, so strong. And I have this problem where I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this brewmaster building these fun, kooky decks. And then by the end, like my last 15 cards are just objectively the most powerful cards in the format, and I'm right back to pile of OP jank.
So you have that. How many commander decks are you running right now? Like, how many do you have?
I'd say I have like, I keep a lot of precons as precons
because
when you introduce people to the game, you want something easy to play with. But I would say that I probably have like 4 or 5 that I would say are in really good shape.
Okay.
So it's Sauron the Dark Lord, it's Elf Ooze Wizard. Why am I not remembering her name? She's from Murders of Karloff Mana.
Oh.
At the beginning of your combat step, you get to cloak a creature.
Yeah.
So it's a morph deck. They added a lot of support for it in this, and Duskborn, which is cool. That deck is basically just like, you cloak morph creatures or you cloak big stuff and then you blink the big stuff, so you don't have to pay the flip cost. And that's kind of fun because I really like commanders that immediately get you value. Like I think the worst feeling in the world in commanders, like you play your commander that needs a turn and it just instantly dies. Yeah. So I like something that will immediately get you value on the table, and she does a really good job of that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So that's great. Do you only play commander? I think you only play commander.
Yeah.
Right?
So I used to be a big standard guy.
Yeah.
Back before I got like really into the esports foray, I was working a service job and I made a lot of tips, and I would just go spend those tips on Magic cards every day.
Yeah.
And so I was a bit of a standard grinder. I got day 2'd a couple of like decently sized events. Loved Delver in the Innistrad era. Great deck. But I was never like actually good, and I've always hated limited. So when I got back into Magic, Commander was like a really easy way to do it without needing to spend every single Friday at an FNM.
I'm sad that you are such an anti-limited player because like limited is so
no,
fun
it's objectively good. Like limited is objectively good, and I think the set designs are so good, and I watch other people play it. But for me, like deck building is probably 70% of the fun. Like I only play the game to justify I feel like building decks half the time. So limited doesn't scratch that itch for me.
Yeah.
Because the toolkit is so limited.
You build decks with unlimited. You build a new deck every time.
I understand, but like there's a difference. Like, I don't get to go to like Scryfall and like scroll through 150 different cards that no one's ever heard of to make something. I like that feeling of being like, oh, I'm the cool, clever guy. Look at my unique idea, and then I go to EDH Rec and I'm like, never mind, I'm a dumb normie, and everyone else has already built this deck.
Soul Ring. This card looks really good.
Yes.
What could I do with this? I've really enjoyed that. I also just started playing Standard for the first time a couple of months ago. And I've really enjoyed Standard. I feel like it's really good right now.
Have you updated for Dustmorn? I'm not sure if Dustmorn's rotated.
It's so funny you say that. Before this morning, I finally decided to put a couple new cards in from Dustmorn to see how it went. Because right now I'm playing Rakdos Cruel Claw. Do you remember Cruel Claw?
I do remember Cruel Claw. Yes, I do. I brewed a lot of Cruel Claw decks.
Yes. So it is a deck it's a standard deck, and almost all the other cards in it have like 2 costs to them. So there's like the Carnosaur from LTC.
Yeah. So you can, you can burn or you can get the Discover trigger.
Yes. So you can play on turn 3 or you can play it when it's big. So you have options early in the game, but you can also flip them with Cruel Claw and play them, and that's been really, really cool. And I'm experimenting with putting in the enchantment creature from Dustmorn, the black one that like lets you put 2 cards.
One of the Bailmark
the impending,
ones.
The impending thing.
Those cards seem really good, but they're also expensive. This is the problem I have with Standard. Is like every time I see a card I like, I then remember I have to buy 4 of it, and I instantly don't want to play Standard.
I don't think you would need to buy 4 of those. Maybe you would. I
feel like if you're like those cards are so good, I imagine they'll end up. I don't know the format, but I imagine they end up in like some sort of control shell within the first few weeks.
There are a lot of decks that are like 100 to 150.
Yeah.
And they're not even like mono burn. Like mine, I think, is pretty cheap.
Yeah. I will say that like when I played Standard, I was really fortunate because mana base is always really expensive, but I played Delver, and most of the cards in Delver were really cheap. It was just Snapcaster Mages and the mana base that was super expensive.
The lands, I don't think that mana bases are that expensive now because they've just reprinted so many of these cards.
True.
And so it's not that bad.
You understand, when Ravnica came out and they reprinted Shocks, that was a nightmare. That was a horrendous time for spending money.
There's definitely, you know what lands are expensive right now is the ones from Karlov Manor because nobody played that set.
Yes.
And so
they're good in every single commander deck. Yes. They're just objectively better than Temples.
Yes,
I am very aware. Every time I check to buy them, I'm like, I should have bought 5 of each of these. And now they're hilariously expensive.
Yeah, so those are pretty good. Who are you playing with these days?
Medic, obviously the big one, and then kind of rotating crew of casters. And then there's actually a lot of people in Riot in general that just play a lot of Magic, and Commander's mostly the format that brings the most people together. So Medic is the big one, although he's a dirty AC player, and I really hate landfall decks because it's kind of unethical to play land destruction in Commander, but at the same time, it's the most broken strategy because it's quote unquote like BM to play land destruction.
Yeah, that's fair. Are you guys going to be coming into London early, you think?
I don't know my London schedule. Presumably we'll be there a few days early because there's always a bit of ramp up. There's a lot more rehearsal for finals, etc. But you want to play Magic the Gathering? I'm always down.
Yeah. I might be, maybe we can try and do it tomorrow.
Sure.
I don't know if that's cool, but other than that, it would also be cool to bring. Because I was thinking,
realizing this is still an interview. We're still being recorded. We're just having a full ass conversation right now.
But I'm thinking I could bring like a draft box to. I know
you
don't
want to draft? No, I mean I'm down to
draft.
But
it would be fun. It would be fun to do like a draft with a bunch of friends before.
I'm really down to do a draft, or at least get a couple games of Commander in.
I have like Mystery Booster, if that is interest to you.
No, Mystery Booster does not interest me.
Okay.
The novelty draft formats, I cannot stand.
I agree. I'm not as much of a fan of that, so I could bring like Dustmorn, or I have everything.
I'm down for either. Dustmorn looked pretty good, so I'd be down to draft some Dustmorn.
Okay, cool. We'll figure that out. I'll be back in 3 weeks. Anything that you want to say to any of the fans out there?
Can I shout out someone in Magic that I think is really cool and deserves more attention? There's a YouTube content creator named Salubrious Snail. He makes incredible videos. He thinks really deeply about the game and Commander, and I highly recommend his content because I have ripped off at least 3 of his deck lists, and I don't have a Magic-related platform, but I want to make sure that he gets that love.
Yeah. You know Rebel, I assume.
I do know Rebel. Yeah. Rebel also very good.
Yes. So one of my favorite decks that I'm playing right now, I didn't bring it, but I have a deck that is only cards from Assassin's Creed. So there's no Soul Ring, there's no Arcane Signet. The deck kind of slaps.
I hate everything about that because
really?
I'm such a the problem is I love Warhammer 40K, so I have to like begrudgingly accept Universes Beyond, and all the Doctor Who cards are really good in a lot of the decks I play, but otherwise I'm a hater. The cards are too good not to play them, but I'm so tired of like, it's time for this crossover.
What I found is like it's the perfect. I just love that it is a deck that has such constraints but still does pretty well because it runs the 5-color Ezio. I don't know how well you're familiar with the Assassin's
I am
Creed.
very familiar.
Yeah, and so then you're just like slapping in, you're free running in all these like crazy.
I definitely took the core for Rebels Camilla the Seed Miser deck because I really liked it as a restriction for Chatterfang. Because Chatterfang is like a hilariously broken commander, but if you pare back some of the power by like limiting yourself to just food and squirrels, it felt way better. So another person in the scene that I like very much take ideas from or take inspiration from, I guess, if I want to be generous.
It's just great because I can always come down and I can just be like, no, this deck is super weak. It doesn't even have Soul Ring or Arcane Signet, and then it just still crushes. So it's great.
That's what we love.
Drew has lost to it, I think.
Deceiving our opponents.
Yeah.
Make that rule conversation a conversation of lies.
Yes, exactly. Rule 0.
Rule 0.
Bracket 1. All right. Thank you so much for the interview.
Of course, anytime.
For everyone else, you can check out the rest of my coverage of all things Magic the Gathering right here on my YouTube channel. We are at Worlds. That's right. Behind me is the stage where the players play, and you can play Prize Picks, my sponsor. They sent me all the way to Worlds. I just got to promote them. I got to shout them out because it's so cool that they were able to get Drew and I over here to Berlin so that we can make content for you. If you would like to play Prize Picks and you think you can do so responsibly, please go check that link in the description below. It's a really fun way to engage with the Worlds matches, and you can play it with friends. You can do whatever you want to there, but signing up with that link and using code Travis is a great way to support my content.